to be able to really connect when I eat sugar or when I eat bread or when I eat pasta, that is impacting my blood sugar and that is impacting my anxiety. That's a really important link that might shift how you see your food. My goal today is to leave you with a lot of really actionable items, new habits, new foods, new things to try. What do we do about it now that we know that anxiety is a symptom that we can work with, that we can support, that we can work on healing? How do we do that? Tell me. All the things, what do we do? So let's do it together. Hey mama, welcome back to the Thrive Mama podcast. I'm Martina, certified nutrition consultant and holistic health coach, and a mama of two, and I am so glad you're here. I am here to help busy moms unlock their energy, balance their hormones, and break out of burnout using nutrition as a foundation. So on this podcast, we will dive into actionable strategies on nutrition, nervous system healing, and aligning with your cycles with a healthy dose of relatable motherhood thrown in, all designed to help you move past surviving to actually thrive in motherhood. Let's do this. All right, mama, we are back for part 2 of our anxiety conversation. Is it anxiety or is it your gut? And the answer is, it's your gut. If you have not listened to the part 1 of this series, go back and listen to it now. We lay a really important foundation of where anxiety comes from and how to start working with it as a symptom instead of as an identity trait as part of your personality. And I also shared a little bit about how I've moved through my anxiety story over the last 10 years and really rewritten that part of myself that lives in anxiety as a default. And it starts with our food. So last episode, we really explored the gut as a core foundation of the nervous system and of neurotransmitter functions. We also explored hormones as a key byproduct of that. We all know hormones are impacting our mood and our mental health for sure. And then we talked about 2 really key nutrition aspects happening here. One is blood sugar, and one is nutrient intake, vitamins and minerals. So we explored all of that in a lot of depth last episode. We're not going to go deep into the why right now. What today's space is really for is the what. It's like the how. It's the what do we do about it now that we know that anxiety is a symptom that we can work with, that we can support, that we can work on healing. How do we do that? Tell me. All the things. What do we do? So let's do it together. My goal today is to leave you with a lot of really actionable items, new habits, new foods, new things to try. So this is going to be a little bit of a denser episode. It might be really helpful for you to grab a notebook or somewhere to jot down some notes as you listen, so you can come back and start implementing some of this and start shifting your default nervous system state. Let's start with the gut. We talked about the importance last episode of these gut bacteria, the microbiome of the body, which is made up of all of the billions and billions of bacterial strains that are constantly running our internal show. And there are some strains that are really supportive, that help us thrive and create health. And there are some bacterial strains that are causing imbalances, that are really destructive, and they cause illness. So the goal with the microbiome is always grow more of the good stuff so it can crowd out, starve out the bad stuff, right? And one of the most direct ways to do that is through fermented foods. There was a study out of the UK that I really love to reference. It was huge. It was like 10,000 people, and they had folks add fermented foods into their daily diet. So they use things like yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir. And what they found was it was 47 to 52%. It was right around 50% range, experienced higher energy and mood improvements. So more steady, spacious moods. And most of those people experienced those changes within about 1 week. Okay, so 50% of people who added in just fermented foods experienced better moods after just 1 week. That is wild. That is crazy sauce. So nutrition support number 1 is fermented food, just straight up. We should be adding these fermented foods into our diet every single day. So I just named a few. Kefir, yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut are all really good options. We can also use foods like miso, which is a fermented soy paste. We can use kombucha, like low sugar added kombucha is a beautiful way to get some fermented bugs into your body. But really creating habits around these fermented foods shifts your microbiome diversity in a big, big way. It needs to be a foundational, non-negotiable part of our diets. From a health perspective, I really prefer fermented vegetables. So things like kimchi and sauerkraut, those are all so supportive for our gut microbiome. Fermented dairy can also be really beautiful. Some of us tolerate dairy better than others. And when we're healing hormones, dairy can have other implications. So it's not my default for most people as food to eat every single day, but it can be a nice support if it's something that works well for you and for everyone. Fermented vegetables are going to be so important. So that's really number one. Your number one anxiety pillar is fermented foods every single day. Now, I know what so many of you are thinking right now. What about a probiotic? Can I just take a probiotic and get those bugs in that way? And, I don't hate probiotics. Like, we're not against a daily probiotic if that's something you want to add in, but it does not replace the fermented foods. It's always going to be better to get these bacteria through foods first for a few reasons. Probiotic supplements really include usually like 5 to 10 different bacterial strains, whereas a fermented food can contain hundreds of different ever-evolving, changing, mating, expanding, replicating bacterial strains that adapt to your body. So you're getting, rather than a probiotic that gives you sort of a static capsule of a few strains, that passes through your body and signals as it goes, that can be helpful. And there are studies that show probiotic supplements improving anxiety symptoms overall. So we're not discounting the probiotic, but it is different than eating a bacterial-rich food that lands in your gut and then actually colonizes and changes the ecosystem long-term versus a pill that is passed through the system and sort of signals as it goes. So you can use them together. You can do probiotic supplements and fermented foods. You can also start with just fermented foods and really focus on devoting yourself to getting those in every single day in some way and seeing what happens from there. Probiotic strains can be helpful for targeted things, but as a general rule, they're not going to heal your gut by themselves. We really need a support through the food as well. Now, we mentioned last episode, blood sugar balance being another key pillar. And we talked about how blood sugar swings and dips are actually mimicking the symptoms of anxiety in your body. So often when we think we are anxious, we are actually just experiencing a blood sugar crash or a blood sugar spike or some kind of imbalance in our blood sugar. It will cause us to feel anxious. So proactively balancing our blood sugar, making it a central focus point for everything we do with our food is going to go such a long way. And this is something I teach really deeply inside of Thrive Mama and with my one-on-one clients. But the core principles are we eat enough food. We eat often enough, right? So we're not going these long stretches without eating. We're eating every like 3 to 4-ish hours. And every single time we eat is balanced with protein, fiber, and healthy fats. We are minimizing refined sugar and carbs and really boosting fiber and protein to balance our blood sugar. This is not like groundbreaking, mind-blowing stuff. I am confident all of you have heard that you should eat protein or that you should eat fiber and that's good for your blood sugar, that you shouldn't eat sugar, right? Like this isn't groundbreaking, but to be able to really connect when I eat sugar or when I eat bread or when I eat pasta, that is impacting my blood sugar and that is impacting my anxiety. That's a really important link that might shift how you see your food. Okay. So we at Luia Wellness are not about demonizing foods or making a bunch of foods off limits. That's not helpful and it doesn't really work at all. There is balance in everything. So what I really would love for you to start with, and where I have most of my clients start, is to look at your day and just make sure that every single time you eat, you are eating protein and you are eating some kind of fruit or vegetable. That will go a long, long way. So that means every single snack, and if you're not snacking, start snacking. Every single snack, we're having protein and a fruit or vegetable. Every single meal, we're not just having pasta. We are having protein with the pasta, and we are adding like 1 to 2 cups of fruits and vegetables for your meals. So just boosting your protein and your fruits and vegetables is going to go a long way, and allow that to naturally crowd out more of the refined sugar, the sugar sweetened drinks. Sugar sweetened drinks have a huge impact on our microbiome and on our blood sugar. So things like soda and juice and anything, energy drinks, all these things that are really sweet, playing a huge role. So we want to let the protein and fiber crowd out the sugar, the refined carbs, the less balanced foods for our blood sugar, and make sure we are eating enough, eating often enough to keep things steady. And there is a really important connection here actually between the blood sugar and the gut. When our blood sugar, which is run by our metabolism, is swinging all over the place, that is actually signaling back to the gut. Insulin and blood sugar signaling in the gut is shifting the microbiome, is changing the pH balance, is actually transforming your gut. So when we have any sort of insulin resistance or high blood sugar or low blood sugar, we're going to see a gut imbalance go along with that. So if you are working on healing your gut and you're pouring all of these fermented foods into your body, it's so beautiful, but your blood sugar is wacky, you're going to be fighting against that process, right? We need both working together. And on the note about fruits and vegetables, getting enough fiber, but especially from colorful fruits and vegetables, is so important for fueling the good bacteria. These good bacteria, remember, those are the ones signaling for us to make more serotonin and make more dopamine and to regulate our neurotransmitters and our hormones. We want them thriving. And we need fruits and vegetables to make that happen. So my goal for clients is 6 to 9 servings every day, which is a fuck ton of fruits and vegetables. It's a lot. And when I say servings, what I mean is about 1 cup raw, or if it's cooked down, about a half a cup. So you can do your mental math on that when you're looking at your day. But when I say eat a fruit or vegetable at a snack, I mean a cup if it's raw. Okay. It's like a full serving of fruits and vegetables, and doing that 6 to 9 times a day, which means every meal and every snack needs like around 2 servings of fruits and vegetables. It's a lot of fruits and vegetables, and most of us are not getting anywhere near it. But that amount of fiber and of nutrients and of colorful gut feeding bacteria that's coming into our body, it is going to shift your microbiome in a super powerful way. And it's one of the number one ways that folks transform their anxious patterns is through healing the microbiome. And we do that through fiber, through these healing antioxidants, through plants, through more plants, more fruits and vegetables. One other nutrition strategy I wanted to share is bone broth. Bone broth is really healing for the gut lining. So especially if you are someone who either has IBS or you have a history of lots of like food intolerances, or you kind of react to food, or maybe you struggle with constipation or any sort of gut stuff, we likely have some permeability in the gut lining itself. So as food is moving through the intestines, the lining, it's like the fence between the intestines and the rest of your body is like shoddy. There's holes in the fence, and that is causing a huge inflammatory cycle and really changing the whole system that's involved in that. So we want to heal up the fence. We want to patch the fence there. And bone broth is a really powerful way to do it. It contains some key amino acids that is incredibly healing for the gut lining. We need proteins to heal this, and amino acids are proteins. And bone broth has these specific proteins that help patch up our fence in our intestines. And because it is a broth, it is incredibly easy for the body to digest. So rather than eating a really protein heavy piece of like animal meat that is a huge effort for the body to break down and the gut's already impaired, so that's challenging, we drink it through a broth. And then our digestion does not have to kick up very much at all, and it gets to do its healing work without the big digestive load. So if you're working on healing your gut, we have mentioned fermented foods, we have mentioned blood sugar balance, protein and fiber all day or day, 6 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables, and bone broth as often as you can. All right, so we're also going to dive into a few lifestyle and hormonal supports, and we're also going to talk about a few things we need to start avoiding if we're working on healing our gut and healing our anxiety symptoms. It's actually so funny. I was so in the flow with this conversation and recording that I totally lost track of time, had to pause recording in the middle to go to my haircut appointment. So if you are watching the video of this podcast, part 2 of this episode features new haircut, Martina, being recorded later in the same day. So new haircut, same episode, same me. Let's do this. Lifestyle supports. Now, here's the thing. If the gut is the second brain, then what the nervous system is doing as a whole is going to impact the gut. So you can eat beautifully. You can nourish your body, quote unquote, perfectly. And if your nervous system is in activation, is in shutdown, is in chronic stress cycles, your gut is going to feel the impact of that no matter what you eat. One of the things I tell my clients often is you cannot out-eat a dysregulated nervous system. So although we need the fermented foods, we need the fiber, we need the bone broth, we also need to take our nervous system seriously. And this is way less sexy than changing your food. It's way less exciting. It's way less fun, but you gotta get into the nervous system maintenance mode. We need practices every day that set our nervous system at the set point that we want to live our life. This is not about healing our anxiety through meditation, although honestly, huge help. This is about practicing being in a nervous system state that feels safe to our body so that our gut and cells can continue to heal, so that our anxiety symptoms can balance out. So some ways that this can look for you. Breath work is incredibly powerful. Somatic practices, moving, dancing, shaking, massage, very powerful. Walks in nature every single day. EFT, emotional freedom tapping, which if you want to experience for yourself, you can pop back over to episode 30 and get access to my free EFT tapping guided exercise that really helps you reground and rewire some subconscious beliefs. Grounding with your feet in the grass. So building in rituals every day that honor your nervous system is a really important part of this process. And the other lifestyle thread that's so, so powerful is your circadian rhythm. So your circadian rhythm, your internal clock, we've probably all heard of in some context, right? It's the internal clock that tells us when to sleep, when to wake. It impacts our hormones. It is run by light, our light environment. And the reason this is so important is because the gut, just like every other organ in the body, runs on an internal clock. So when our circadian rhythm is out of whack, the gut function is going to be incredibly impaired. It's not going to digest our food as well. Our microbiome, our good bacteria is going to really suffer. Things are going to be broken down much more slowly, less efficiently. We're going to get leaky gut because gut function is up or down regulated based on our internal clock. And this is on purpose. Like we don't want to be digesting dinner and then suddenly have to poop at 3 a.m., right? That would disrupt our sleep and our rest. We actually down regulate digestion while we sleep so that we have a bowel movement in the morning and not overnight. That's just one example. Then in the morning, our digestion kicks back up so that we're prepared to ingest and digest breakfast right away, and it boosts our digestive function. So it runs on this clock. When our circadian rhythm's out of whack, which most of us have some imbalances in this area, it's going to throw that whole system off. And the reason that most of us have a circadian rhythm that's a little bit wonky is because light environment is the main way that this is regulated. It's the signaling that moves into our eyes, into our hypothalamus, which is a part of our brain, and sends that timing, that signaling to everything else. I often compare this to the conductor in the orchestra. The conductor is keeping everyone on time together to the beat of the music. And the cells, the hormones, the organs all depend on the conductor to tell them where they are on the beat, right? If the conductor isn't getting clear signals, everything's going to be off. And the way we get those signals is through light. So blue light exposure, first thing in the morning or right before bed, going to really throw us off. Looking at screens, TV, phones, bright indoor lights. Being inside all day around fluorescent lights, not being in nature, in sunlight, gonna really throw us off. I would love to record a full episode for you soon, diving deeper into the circadian rhythm, because it's actually so powerful when it comes to our hormones and regulating our hormonal cycles. But for today, talking about anxiety and the gut connection, I just want to really invite you into some awareness that the timing of when you eat is incredibly important. Not eating huge meals right before bed, eating breakfast within 1 to 2 hours of waking up, eating approximately the same time every day, and then keeping our light environment in alignment with nature as much as possible. Waking up and getting our eyeballs on the sun, wearing blue light filtering glasses or filtering blue light on our phones while we're on screens. Getting sunlight in the middle of the day or watching the sunset. All of this regulates our conductor, our internal conductor clock, so that everything can work in union, including the gut, which ripples out into our neurotransmitters, our hormones, and everything having to do with our anxiety symptoms. Now, I want to make a really brief mention here when we're talking about these strategies to support anxiety about our cycles. And there is so much more to cycles than I can weave into just this episode, but it's important enough to just deserve some airtime. So the reason this is part of the nutrition and biological supports of anxiety symptoms is because our hormones, which obviously impact how we think and feel, shift dramatically at different points in our cycle. And actually, our brain function does too. Most of us aren't aware that our brain matter shifts up to 25% at different points in our cycle. That is bonkers. So if you ever feel like you're not the same person every day of the month, it's actually because you're not the same person every day of the month. And the problem is most of us move through our lives copy and pasting day to day to day, expecting ourselves to show up the same way in our schedules, in our nutrition, in our exercise, in our families, with our partner. We expect the same output every single day, no matter where we are. And the problem with that is that it does not honor the reality of our hormonal shifts. And that turns into cortisol imbalances, estrogen dominance, depleted progesterone. We're not ovulating. We have irregular cycles. All of these things are building intensity around our anxiety symptoms, especially if you're somebody who notices that your anxiety gets worse at certain times of your cycle. This is a really common pattern. For many of us, it's towards the end of our cycle. The last 7 to 10 days or so before our period, we often have increased anxiety. But the other thing I do see sometimes is in the first half of our cycle, when our estrogen is continuing to rise. For some of us, if we don't have a balance of other hormones in our body, that can turn into some frantic, anxious, restless energy around ovulation or right before ovulation. So either could be true. What's most important is for you to tune into what's true for you and your body. And notice the patterns of when your anxiety ebbs and flows, because that is a huge clue to what you may be needing. I do have a couple of other podcast episodes specifically around this topic, around cycles, that I will link in the show notes below. And I will also link for you my Cycle Keepers workshop, which is a full-blown period school. It walks you through each phase of your cycle, what's happening hormonally, what nutrition you need, and how to honor your energy in that phase so you're not working against your biology and you're actually reading the signs of your cycle and responding to it in a really powerful way. And these are all really beautiful things to start adding in, right? Our fermented foods, our bone broth, our vegetables, our nervous system breaks, our blue light blockers. But I do need to touch on a few things that are impacting our gut health and our anxiety in a way that we really don't want. And none of what I'm about to share is all or nothing. So please take this from a perspective of balance and of values. So if feeling steady and grounded and calm and healing this symptom in a holistic way feels important to you, these are simply educational pieces of invitations to explore. There is no pressure, there is no pressure, there is no dogma, there's no restriction. There is simply empowered choice. One that I want to share right off the bat is gluten. And I don't really believe everyone in the world has to be gluten-free forever. But the deeper into my coaching journey I get, and the more and more I work with clients, the more I see across the board that once gluten is out of the picture, healing happens faster. And the anxiety gluten connection is pretty well documented. It is especially true for those of us with any sort of IBS, with any sort of autoimmune disease, whether it's connected to the gut or not. If you have any autoimmune disease in your body, your gluten anxiety connection is probably pretty strong. And anyone with other food allergies or sensitivities, especially if you have a couple of them, if we are allergic to a couple of different foods, even if it's not gluten, that is really pointing towards imbalances in the gut and leaky gut permeability, which is our fence. We were talking about the holes in our fence last episode. So when that is the case, something like gluten that has quite inflammatory proteins in it is going to make the problem worse. So if you have anxiety patterns and you are looking to heal it in a holistic way, doing an elimination experiment with gluten might be worth your effort and your time. I would say 3 to 6 months is the minimum amount of time that I would give it before deciding if this actually does work for you or not. But giving it a solid 6 months, seeing if you notice a difference in your anxiety, and then making an informed choice from there about how gluten might fit into your life and your routine. And the other specific food that is a huge trigger for a lot of people's gut imbalances and overall anxiety symptoms are artificial sweeteners. So I'm talking specifically about sucralose and aspartame. Those are two of my biggies that I really help people find ways to avoid, because it is well documented that those two artificial sweeteners, aside from our concerns about cancer risk, really impact the gut microbiome in a huge, huge way. So they are causing these good microbes that are feeding our neurotransmitter function and our hormone detox to die out. And they're fueling an environment that lets the bad bugs thrive. And it is a really consistent and pretty powerful impact for those who have these sweeteners regularly. So it is worth it to try to find other sweetener options, avoiding aspartame and sucralose as much as we possibly can. And it does take some time to read our labels of our regular foods and drinks, because they are sneaky and they are in a lot of foods. So finding alternatives like monk fruit, honey, even stevia in moderate amounts, totally fine. Way less concern about microbiome balance and overall anxiety symptoms. And then two others that are not going to be a shocker to you, but need to be mentioned here. One is caffeine or coffee on an empty stomach, especially. Coffee in general is going to be a pretty big anxiety trigger for a lot of us due to its direct impact on our cortisol release. When we drink high levels of caffeine, especially the caffeine in coffee, we are getting a direct surge of cortisol, and caffeine tends to irritate the stomach lining in general. So it's impacting your gut microbiome and directly acting on our cortisol release to spike that stress hormone. It's why so many of us feel a little bit of like jitteriness after coffee. It is tough to shift a coffee habit, and it's something I work with folks on deeply. By the time we build in all the other energizing supports, most of my clients are able to step away from coffee without it even being a thing, because they don't need it anymore in the same way. But if you are still really relying on coffee to get through your day, zero shame or judgment around that. Use what tools you need. But for now, build yourself a buffer where your caffeine only goes into your body with or after a meal. We are not waking up and drinking coffee first thing. We are not fasting and calling coffee breakfast. We are not drinking coffee in the middle of the afternoon with nothing else in our stomach. We are drinking coffee with or after a meal. This is going to support the impact on our gut and actually slow the surge of cortisol that can come from coffee. And then lastly, alcohol needs to be thrown in here. I know that I don't need to convince anyone out here that alcohol is not helping our health and that alcohol is actually connected pretty significantly to overall rates of depression and anxiety. It is impacting our neurotransmitters in a big, big way. And it also disrupts our gut barrier. It pokes holes in that fence that we need and kills off the healthy bacteria. Just like the sucralose and aspartame, it's shifting our gut environment towards the negative bugs. So if you are using alcohol, especially to relax at the end of the day, to kind of cope with some of the anxiety patterns, it is worth just stepping back and noticing the connection between reliance on regular consumption of alcohol and the symptoms, the feelings of anxiety. Alcohol will help in the short term. It gets us out of our head. It is a depressant, so it helps relax our system. If we're really activated, it can help us temporarily get out of that state. But in the long run, it is actually creating a cycle that gets us back into that state more quickly and more deeply over and over and over again. So just something to start considering, other ways we can get ourselves out of that state without relying on alcohol to do so. So this was a lot of strategies we just dumped in your lap in one episode. Again, if you haven't listened to the last episode, it's going to be really important for you to get that foundation. Otherwise, all you're receiving is a checklist of things to do, and it's not going to land in the same way. You're not going to feel any sort of understanding or connection or investment about why you should be doing these things. Understanding the why behind it is how we build sustainability. It's how you begin to trust your own body and intuition, because you're not just following a protocol, you're actually understanding how your body works and why. So go back and listen to the last episode, get your foundations, and then take a look at the list of this episode. We talked about fermented food. We talked about blood sugar balance. We talked about 6 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables. We weaved in bone broth. We added nervous system breaks in our day. We added circadian rhythm practices. We started paying attention to anxiety patterns in our cycle. And then we talked about some things we need to avoid or limit in order to support our anxiety. So that's a lot to work with. That is a lot to play with. And I'm going to leave some free tools in the caption below so that you can start getting some supports with adding these things in as much as you can. But just know that you don't need to do it all at once. Whatever other tools you're using to support your anxiety is beautiful. And the most important thing for me is that food is part of your toolbox and that we are not just working with the symptom. We are actually going into the root and healing from the inside out, because your anxiety is not a piece of your identity. Your anxiety is not a piece of your personality that is unchangeable. Anxiety is a neutral symptom. It is simply a system. Just like if you got a rash on your arm, you got a headache in the middle of the day, you got a cough. These are symptoms, not part of who you are. And your anxiety is the same way. It is communication from your body that there is something that it needs. And if you're asking the question, is it anxiety or is it my gut? The answer is probably your gut. And you can handle the anxiety symptoms while healing your gut from the inside out. If you are looking for support on this process. I have a couple of spots for one-on-one coaching open in the next few weeks. So you can check out the details in the caption for that. We can work really deeply on your specific health goals and scenario. And Thrive Mama is reopening its doors and rolling a brand new cohort at the beginning of October. So you can hop on the wait list so you make sure you hear first when doors open, you snag your spot, and the waitlist gets a sweet little discount so you can get on the wait list, be the first in line, and grab your spot inside of Thrive Mama once doors reopen. So my love, I would really love to hear which of these foundations, which of these strategies you're going to be trying first, and any other questions or aha moments you had. Let's start a conversation. Let me know in the comments below this episode. Send me a DM over on Instagram. And if you found some value in this conversation today, I would love to invite you to drop the show a quick rating. You can drop some stars under the rating of the show. You can hit subscribe and share this episode with your mama besties who would love access to this kind of toolbox. So I am sending you so much love as you navigate your week. And until we meet again, take beautiful care of yourself.